without further ado, I'm going to bring Michelle up to talk about how to get the most out of your 1-hour meetings. Come on up, Michelle. Give her a huge round of applause.
Organizing hackathon is a lot of work and most inevitably involves hours and hours of meetings. And without proper preparation, it's really easy to just kind of sit there, you know. You ask like, anyone have any thoughts? And everyone's just sitting there being like silence, an awkward 5 seconds of silence. You kind of like, all right, let's move on to the next topic. And yeah, if we're mostly coming to meetings to discuss things and make decisions, if we're not discussing and if we're not making decisions, why would we meet up for a meeting, right? So those are the things that I'll be kind of tackling today. Before I get started, this is my information. I want to introduce myself really quickly. I am Michelle Kim from Vancouver, Canada. I'm co-president of NW Plus. Yes, Victoria Kim, who went like twice before me. She's my partner in crime. And we organized 3 hackathons over the year. And yeah, I've been organizer for 3 years. And this year I was very luckily listed as MLH Top 50 Hackers as well. Those are my contacts. If you want to talk about hackathons, always feel free to reach out to me. I'm always down to talk. And yeah. Table of contents really quickly. I mean, there's not much that I can talk in 5 minutes, but here you go. I'll start with talking about the meeting note structures. There's definitely not one right way, but I'll introduce one of the ways that worked really well for me. And then I'll quickly talk about how to use asynchronicity to really condense down your meetings, and then finally go over some tips and tricks that I found along the way. And at this time, I want to note that every organization is very different, just like how we all look very different. And so whatever I talk to you is solely based on my experience. It may or may not be applicable to your team, your organization, your events, or your meetings. Feel free to disregard whatever that doesn't apply to you. If it does, I really hope you to take it back to your team, apply, implement as it fits, and yeah, hope a lot of people can take something away from this talk. So I'll talk about meeting notes. Yeah. I was really surprised when I found out that more than 50% of the people still take individual meeting notes. For me, the first step of meeting preparation is making meeting notes for the team, where the entire team can access the same amount of information, have same understanding of the action items, discussion items, all the points and priorities. It's also really nice to create meeting notes for your team, collective meeting notes. So if anything happens in the future and you want to refer back to the meeting notes, it's really easy to go back. As I said, there's a lot of different ways to structure meeting notes. For me, what works best is this kind of chronological order that I'll tackle the past updates, what my team has been doing for the past week, and then go to the present and talk about discussion items that needs to be discussed this meeting, or the decisions that needs to be made this meeting, and then go to the future and kind of talk about the actionable items that I kind of ask my teams to fulfill before next meeting. In terms of time, I definitely don't. I'm on the lower side of the time. I try to spend at least 10 to 20% of the actual meeting time to prepare for the meeting. So if I'm preparing for a 1-hour meeting, I'll try to spend 6 to 12 minutes preparing the meeting notes and think through what I'm going to talk about in the meeting. And the next is using asynchronicity. There's a lot of time. Every time I create a meeting note, I'll think about how do I condense this down so there's no dreadful silence in the middle of the meeting trying to awkwardly wait for everyone to come up with their answer. And I did blank out. Okay, for in terms of asynchronicity, I like to ask my team to read over respective documentations, threads, or ongoing discussion if there was something happening beforehand. And that way, even if the team's not actively discussing about it, have the question, information, and discussion really settle in and sink in their back of their head. In that case, I guess I found that the teams are better off and usually give up more structured answers during our meetings and less silence, less awkward, and everyone's happy. I have an example here. So this is almost like taken directly from one of the meeting notes from last year's. For our team, it's really common to have multiple discussion items, and you can see like each of them is kind of important. Like if you don't do well on them, hacker experience, hacker happiness will like drop. So as you can see, beside each item, there's like a quick like around estimated time that I want each item to take. I usually don't write it down. I usually take a mental note, but writing it down is also helpful if you're starting with this kind of structure. And yeah, this particular example, I opened the tab for the hacker application documents review. So this, before going into the meeting, for example, I would ask my team to read over like, hacker application list or the grading rubric that we has already put together and make like a quick notes on like what kind of adjustments we could make on those. So in the meeting, we can kind of quickly go over whatever the notes that they've taken and talk more about like make decisions on what kind of adjustments we want to implement and what adjustments we want to skip. Rather than like waiting for everyone to read over the documents, waiting for everyone to write the notes and asking like what should we change, and there's like a silence. And I'm talking about silence a lot. I do have fear of silence. I always need to like speak to fill it up. But yeah, that was an example. In terms of tips and tricks, even knowing all that and being like really hating long meetings, I still it's really easy to lose track of time if you're in the middle of the meeting. What I sometimes do is like set a quick reminder that like kind of tells you like 5 minutes before end of the meeting, kind of start wrapping up. If you're having a really hard time, I also kind of recommend setting like a quick notification or alarm for like each discussion item, so you can really quick switch over to the next discussion item and prevent discussion going like in circles or to getting too heated. Yeah, and make meeting notes for the next meeting right away. I try to make meeting notes for the next meeting right away when the discussion items and action items still fresh in my head. If that's not possible, if you have consecutive meetings, just put like a quick reminder or time in the calendar to really prepare for the meeting. It doesn't only help you to get ready for the meeting, but also your teammates to, I guess, give them the time to read all the documentation if there's any pre-meeting preparation and requirements that you have, and also all these like sink in, think about it beforehand and all those things. Yeah, and also sending a follow-up if necessary. The more asynchronous aspect you incorporate, there will be more homework that your team would need to do at home. It would be nice if everyone can remember everything, but with all the discussion items and a lot of things going on at the same time, sometimes it's really hard. Like it's really easy to lose track of like all the action items and what they need to do. So it's, for me, I try to, if there's a very important discussion items or action items, send like a quick summary and like a follow-up message into a group chat saying like, hey, these are the things we talked about, and these are the things that we will talk next week. So these are the homeworks that you need to do. Yeah, and if you want to know, all the meeting notes examples and snippets that I showed are taken in Notion, not sponsored, I wish. But yeah, if you're interested in the QR code list, the more complete list of the meeting notes, so feel free to take a note of that. And yeah, that's it for my presentation. Thank you, everyone, and I hope everyone kind of goes back with something.
Thank you. Thanks.